The moment sexual activity fades in later life, something deeper begins to decline. Not just desire, but your entire system, mentally, emotionally, and physically. It's not just about libido. Your heart weakens, your memory dulls, your confidence begins to quietly collapse. This is the silent epidemic of aging no one talks about until it's too late. I'm Dr. James Ellison, professor of urology and men's health specialist at Baylor College of Medicine. For over 30 years, I've helped thousands of older men and women reclaim their vitality, restore their confidence, and rebuild intimacy. What I'm about to share is based on real science, not myths, not fear, and it may completely shift how you approach aging. Because here's the truth. Most people believe that losing interest in sex is just a normal part of getting older. It's not. It's a warning sign. When intimacy disappears, 5 serious health problems often creep in, slowly, quietly, and painfully. In this video, I'll show you exactly what happens to your brain, your heart, your hormones, and even your longevity when you stop having sex in later life. Don't miss it. What you learn here could be the beginning of a stronger, more connected chapter, no matter your age. When you stop having sex in your golden years, but more importantly, I'll show you simple, natural ways to reignite intimacy safely at any age. The third consequence on this list is so emotionally damaging. Many older adults, suffer in silence for years, and doctors rarely talk about it. But I will. Let's get into it before we dive into these life-changing insights. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and tap the bell so you never miss a health tip that could protect your body, mind, and relationship as you age. If this resonates with you, type yes in the comments. If not, type no, and let me know how I can serve you better. Let's begin with the first and perhaps most overlooked consequence of giving up intimacy in your later years. Your hormones begin to decline faster than they should. And that sets off a chain reaction that affects your entire body, one hormonal decline that accelerates aging. I've seen this far too many times in my practice. A man in his late 60s or a woman in her early 70s comes in complaining of fatigue, brain fog, muscle loss, and low mood. They assume it's just aging, inevitable, untreatable. But when I ask about their intimacy or sex life, they look down, pause, and quietly say, "It's been a while." Indra. What they don't realize is that stopping sexual activity can send the body's hormones into a free fall. And that's when the true price begins to show as we age. Testosterone and estrogen levels naturally decline. That's no secret. But what most people don't know is that regular sexual activity helps slow that decline. It keeps those vital hormones circulating, maintaining balance and vitality. When sex stops altogether, that hormonal support collapses, and it doesn't just affect the bedroom. Your body begins to change in ways that can feel frightening. You may lose muscle more rapidly. Your bones may weaken and your skin may start to sag. Energy drops. Motivation fades. Even simple tasks begin to feel heavier. But it's not just physical. Low testosterone or estrogen can trigger serious mood swings, anxiety, and even depression. You may start to feel invisible, not just to others, but to yourself and for many older adults. That's when they stop living and start merely existing. The danger here isn't just in how you feel. It's what this hormonal crash is doing to your long-term health. Hormonal imbalances are linked to higher risks of cardiovascular disease, metabolic disorders, and a faster cognitive decline. This isn't just about sex. This is about aging faster than you should, and paying for it with your strength, your independence, and in some cases, your life. And the worst part, it happens so gradually, you often don't notice until it's already taken hold. That's why understanding this now and taking action matters more than ever. But this is only the beginning, because the second consequence doesn't just affect your body. It begins to change how your brain functions and what happens. There might surprise you if you're still here, and this message is resonating with you. Just type the number 1 in the comments. So I know you're still with me, listening, reflecting, and ready to keep going. Now let's take a closer look at the second powerful consequence you need to know: 2. Cognitive decline and memory loss. I remember a patient named George, 72 years old, sharp as a tack. Most of his life he ran his own business, loved such crossword puzzles, and had a memory like a steel trap. But over the course of a few years, something shifted. He started forgetting names, misplacing things, struggling to follow conversations. His wife was worried when I asked about his health. Everything seemed fairly normal until we got to his sex life. "We haven't been intimate in a long time," he said quietly. "I guess we just let that part of us go." Most people think sex is just physical, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Sexual activity plays a direct role in brain health. When you're physically intimate, your brain releases a cocktail of powerful neurochemicals, dopamine, oxytocin, and serotonin that promote focus, reduce stress, and improve memory function. Regular sexual connection increases blood flow to the brain, supporting neural activity and keeping cognitive processes sharp. When that stimulation disappears, the brain suffers in silence. The price of this loss is steep. Studies have shown that older adults who are sexually inactive have a higher risk of cognitive decline, including memory loss and even dementia. You may start to forget familiar faces, lose your train of thought mid-sentence, or feel mentally foggy. Most days over time, you might stop engaging socially because the frustration and embarrassment feel too heavy, and that isolation only speeds up the decline. But here's what makes it even more dangerous. Most people never connect the dots. They blame age, genetics, or just getting older, never realizing that a key part of their brain's health quietly slipped away when they stopped being physically intimate. It's not about having sex for the sake of it. It's about preserving the most important part of who you are: your mind, your memories, your identity. And while losing clarity is terrifying, what comes next may be even more devastating. Because the third consequence doesn't just touch your mind or body, it reaches deep into your emotional core and threatens something every human being needs: the feeling of being loved, wanted, and truly connected. 3. Depression, loneliness, and loss of self-worth. I can still hear the voice of Margaret, a 68-year-old widow who once sat across from me, her eyes welling up as she whispered, "I don't think anyone has touched me in over 5 years. Sometimes I wonder if I even exist anymore." That moment has stayed with me ever since, because behind every blood pressure check or cholesterol reading, there's often something deeper and harder to measure: the pain of emotional isolation when sexual intimacy fades. It's rarely just the body that's left untouched. The heart begins to wither. 2. You stop feeling desired, seen, or valued, and for many older adults, this becomes a silent crisis. You might still be surrounded by people, family, friends, even a longtime spouse, and yet feel completely alone. Intimacy isn't just about sex, it's about closeness, laughter, touch, and the deep human need to feel wanted. The price for ignoring this part of your life is steep. Depression doesn't always show up as sadness. Sometimes it's chronic fatigue, loss of appetite, or a sense that nothing really matters anymore. You lose motivation to care for yourself. Your self-image deteriorates. You begin to feel like a burden rather than a person with desires, dreams, and dignity. And tragically, many older adults suffer this emotional decay and silence because no one wants to talk about intimacy after 60. But that silence comes at a cost, and that cost is your sense of being. Elbow. I've seen marriages fall into quiet despair, where two people love each other but feel like strangers in the same room. I've seen confident men and women lose their spark because the warmth of physical affection disappeared. And I've seen how that slow emotional erosion can steal joy faster than any physical illness. And yet, even as intimacy breaks the heart when it's lost, the body also begins to feel the absence in ways that are more dangerous than most people realize, because the next consequence doesn't just affect how you feel. It can literally put your heart at risk if you're still watching and finding these insights. Meaningful type. The number one in the comments to let me know you're here and engaged. Let's continue now with point number 4, and this one could have a serious impact on your heart health. 4. Cardiovascular health suffers. I once treated a man named Robert, 74, retired firefighter. Strong as they come, at least on the outside, but when he came in complaining of chest tightness and shortness of breath, the test didn't lie. His heart was under stress. He didn't smoke. His diet was decent, and he exercised occasionally, so I asked him gently, "Are you still sexually active?" He looked down, shrugged, and said, "Not in years." What he didn't know, what most people don't, is that the heart doesn't just respond to diet and exercise, it responds to intimacy. Sexual activity is a form of cardiovascular exercise. It boosts circulation, regulates blood pressure, and increases nitric oxide production, which helps keep blood vessels flexible and strong. More than that, the act itself, and everything leading up to it, releases chemicals that reduce stress, promote restful sleep, and strengthen emotional bonds. All of these factors contribute directly to heart health. Without intimacy, the heart begins to miss those signals. Over time, arteries stiffen, inflammation increases, and stress hormones stay elevated. You may not feel it immediately, but silently. Your risk of heart disease begins to rise. The cost of losing that natural cardiovascular rhythm is severe. According to several long-term studies, older adults who are sexually inactive are significantly more likely to experience heart attacks and strokes, especially men. It's not just about missing out on a moment of connection. It's about slowly weakening one of the most vital organs in your body, and unlike external symptoms, you can see heart damage accumulates quietly until it strikes without warning. Robert didn't realize that reclaiming intimacy could have been part of his heart care. Many don't. But the science is clear. Connection heals more than emotions. It strengthens the body, protects the heart, keeps blood flowing and life moving. And if the heart is the engine of the body, then what we're about to talk about next is the foundation of your entire sexual health, because the final consequence, if ignored, can leave behind permanent damage, physically, emotionally, and relationally. And once it happens, it's not so easy to come back from 5 shrinking genital health and function. I remember a couple married for over 40 years who came into my office not because something was wrong, but because something had quietly gone missing. They hadn't been intimate in nearly a decade, and neither of them had the courage to bring it up until their bodies started to change. He was having trouble with erections, she was experiencing pain and dryness. But the hardest part wasn't the physical symptoms. It was the grief in their eyes, the unspoken fear that something beautiful was now permanently out of reach. This is the part no one warns you about. When sexual activity stops for long periods of time, your body doesn't just pause, it adapts, and not in a good way for men. Blood flow to the penis decreases, and over time the tissues can begin to atrophy. Erections become weaker, sensitivity drops, and in many cases erectile dysfunction becomes harder to reverse for women. The vaginal walls thin. Elasticity fades and lubrication dries up without stimulation. The tissues become fragile, making future intimacy painful or even impossible without medical help. The price you pay isn't just physical, it's deeply emotional. The fear of embarrassment, the shame of no longer working like you used to, the avoidance of closeness because you don't want to confront what's changed. I've seen it rob people of connection, break marriages in slow silence, and create emotional wounds that go untreated for years. What starts as we just drifted apart often ends in nusut, regret, frustration, and resignation. The longer you wait, the harder it becomes, literally and figuratively, just like a muscle that's never used. Sexual function declines without activity. And while there are ways to restore it, the truth is, it's much easier to preserve what you have than to try and rebuild it after years of neglect. This is one of the highest prices older adults pay when they ignore their sexual health, and tragically, many don't realize it until it feels too late. But here's the truth, it's not too late, not if you act now, because there are proven natural ways to protect your body. Restore intimacy and reclaim the parts of yourself that aging tried to take. So what can you do, starting today, to turn things around? Let's talk about that next. So what can you do? If you've been listening closely, you might feel a mix of emotions right now: concern, maybe regret, or even fear that it's too late to reclaim what's been lost. But let me be clear, it's not too late. No matter your age, no matter how long it's been, there is still time to reconnect with your body, with your partner, and with the parts of yourself you may have pushed aside. The human body is remarkably resilient, especially when treated with patience, consistency, and care and intimacy. Even in your 60s, 70s, and beyond is not just possible. It can be beautiful, powerful, and healing. The first step is to stop seeing sexual health as something separate from overall health. They are deeply connected. Start by caring for your body in the most basic ways. Through movement, nutrition, sleep, and stress reduction, gentle exercise like walking, stretching, or swimming helps stimulate circulation and hormone production. Eating heart-healthy foods and staying hydrated supports vascular function, which is essential for intimacy. Getting quality rest and reducing emotional stress are just as critical, because a calm mind invites connection. If you're in a relationship, open the conversation. I know it's not always easy, especially after years of silence, but vulnerability is the gateway to closeness. You don't have to fix everything overnight. Start with touch, with kindness, with listening. Intimacy with moissy doesn't begin in the bedroom. It begins in how we make each other feel. And please, don't be afraid to talk to your doctor. There are safe, effective treatments available, from natural supplements to low-dose therapies. But the first step is asking: you deserve to feel else connected, and whole age doesn't steal that. Right silence: does you have more power than you think? The question is, are you ready to use it? Because the final thing I want to share with you is not about fear or loss, it's about hope. In this last message, I want to show you what's truly possible when you choose to reclaim your vitality, no matter how old you are. Let's bring it all together. 6 final thoughts. Aging doesn't mean fading. It doesn't mean you become invisible, or that parts of you no longer matter. What it does mean is that you must be more intentional about your health, your happiness, your connection, and yes, your intimacy. Because what we've talked about here isn't just about sex. It's about staying alive in the fullest sense of the word. If you stop having sex in old age, the costs can be deep and far-reaching. Your hormones begin to decline faster, robbing you of energy, strength, and emotional balance. Your mind begins to slip slowly at first, but the damage can build silently. Depression creeps in, and with it loneliness and a loss of identity that no pill can fix. Your heart, both physically and emotionally, suffers, and perhaps most painfully, your ability to feel, connect, and express love through your body begins to slip away, sometimes permanently. But I want you to hear this and believe it. These changes are not irreversible. You are not broken. You are not done. Your body may have changed, but your capacity for joy, love, passion, and closeness has not disappeared. It may be buried. It may be rusty, but it's still there waiting. You have the right to feel touch, to share laughter, to hold and be held. And it's not selfish or foolish to want those things. It's human. In fact, it's vital to your health. And if something in this message stirred something in you, a memory, a longing, maybe even a little bit of grief, that's okay. That means you're still alive, still open, still capable. Start small. Have the conversation, reach for your partner's hand, move your body. Ask your doctor. You're not chasing youth. You're reclaiming vitality, not for anyone else's approval, but for your own well-being and dignity. Because in the end, the goal isn't to return to who you once were. It's to become fully who you are right now in this season of life, with all the strength, softness, wisdom, and desire that comes with it. You deserve that, and it's never too late to begin again if this message spoke to you. Please take a moment to like, share, and leave a comment below. Your voice matters, and you never know who else might need to hear this today. Let's keep the conversation going together.